from a dabbling briefly in a theological perspective, I sometimes hear people talk about whether or not God intervenes in human history anymore. Since since the Christian Bible is written and finished and whatever, and God doesn't intervene in history anymore, He's left it to us. That's the deist approach, I suppose, which is neither here nor there. My point is, I think God does still intervene in human history by creating people with the specific gifts to answer the problems of humanity. That when we think a problem is insurmountable, suddenly a child is born that has a rare set of gifts that are not found in anyone else. And in fact, at the time the child is born, we may not even recognize them. We may have no idea that that was the person within whom God hid the answer until they're in their 20s or 30s or later.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That's the way I think God is still intervening in human history, by creating gifted people. But unless we nurture everyone's giftedness and encourage everyone to be able to come out and feel good about themselves, whoever and whatever they are, we're going to miss those gifts.
And it just does such a disservice to not just to the individual and the group of which they belong, but to the society as a whole too, because it's like if we can't accept diversity, we're just going to be so closed down and so narrow-minded and so narrow-focused. It's like there are always things that are interesting and different in the world, and to pick a certain area that we want to close it down and not have it be itself and not have it be its full expression. Society doesn't grow from that.
Considering how many different kinds of insects there are in the world, how many different kinds of cattle and how many different kinds of fish, why should there be only two kinds of people?
Right.
You know, and it's the whimsy and mischievousness of God, I suppose, that we have living examples such as the platypus, which when it was first discovered in Australia, people refused to believe that it was a real animal until they brought back a living platypus and said, see, it's not something a taxidermist cooked up. It's something that God made. And it defies all categorization.
And some of the interesting creatures they're finding now in the sea, you know, at the bottom of the sea where they haven't been able to see them before. It's like fascinating.
And they've been there waiting for it, to be discovered. It's not like they have only just appeared and they didn't exist before we knew they were there. They were there.
It's not the ostrich approach. Close your eyes and it's not there. They're always there.
Well, and there's so much more than what we see. But to apply that same principle to each other, you know, into our societies, that when you look at a company and it says, where are we going to find the answers to this problem? And I'd say, well, look out your window at your workforce, because there's a treasure trove of possibilities in each of those persons. If you give them the wherewithal to speak openly and honestly, to contribute their ideas, to consider new approaches, and maybe it'll be 2 or 3 of them working together where they all have a piece, and as soon as all 3 pieces touch, you're like, that's it. That's what will do it. And the company's off to, you know, a record year in profit, maybe. But you have to be willing to mine the resources of the people who are present.
Believe in them.
Believe in them, and encourage them to believe in themselves. Which, of course, that's what coming out is. Getting to a place where you believe in yourself so much that you're not going to let any oppressive society tell you that you don't exist. You know, imagine, if you will, a platypus marching down the street with a placard saying, I am real.
Platypi, is that platypi?
Platypi.
Do exist.
I haven't had to talk about more than one at a time.
Sounds like better than platypuses, doesn't it?
I suppose it does. I know it's octopus and octopi.
That's right.
Which is where, on a lighter note, to briefly digress, someone the other, we were talking about what do you call your significant other, and a spouse, and what if you have a group of spouses? Well, more than, if it's octopus and octopi, then it must be spouse and plural spice.
The spice of life.
That works for me. I thought it was a delightful way to look at it. You know, and that's, you know, but that really does come back to our subject, that it's about having, you know, the spice of life, having the diversity be something that flavors, colors, and embellishes
Yeah.
the feast that humanity can be,
Right.
but only if we're willing to appreciate each example within it,
Yes.
and to give each example the freedom to be itself,
Yep.
you know, to place no constrictions on fitting in.
And I think that's why, you know, it's so important for, you know, so many people to be out, because, you know, people get to hold on to their beliefs and their stereotypes. If people aren't out, I was speaking to you privately about my belief that I thought God should have made gays and lesbians purple. Because then everybody would know, a neighbor, a friend, a family member, a colleague, whomever, who was gay or lesbian, and people just wouldn't be able to hold on to their stereotypes so much.
Well, and like left-handedness, it would defy all prediction. You could have a purple person born into any family around the world,
Right.
totally without explanation, perhaps, or at least at this point, at least at this stage. But and it, because of its unpredictability and because of its prevalence, it seems to me that you could not easily build a prejudice against it.
And there'd be less likelihood to take it personally. I know there's so many parents who, you know, they find
What
out
did I
their
do to cause this?
gay or lesbian child, exactly. And, you know, if they found out 10% was, well, there'd be somebody in their block, or somebody, several people at their work, or whoever who did also. So the theory about I did something wrong wouldn't hold water.
Well, and I've been completely estranged from my family because they have no place in their lives for an openly gay person, which I've never said that on the show before, but
That's a shame.
I don't hide it, I suppose, but and they don't understand that there really is a completely different orientation to life. It's not just, I mean, in one sense I'm the same person I always was, you just know more. In another sense, it's taking that step of recognizing that I'm not the child you envisioned I would be. And it is absolutely essential at this point that you relinquish your expectations and allow me to be who and what I am.
Right. And it's such a loss for parents to do that, to discount their child because of just some aspect that they can't seem to accept. It's like they don't get to know the wonderfulness that you are, the creative person that you obviously are,